Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark on the Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1930 World War I drama, All Quiet on the Western Front.
You may be stupid, but I'm used to that.
Hey, that's not fair. You haven't even seen the full review. You're worse than the YouTube comment section sometimes. If this is your first time joining me, I'm reviewing every movie in this book, the 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. All Quiet on the Western Front was the first film in Oscar history to win both Best Picture and Best Director at the same ceremony. It is based off the 1929 book of the same name, and it is told from the German perspective of the war. Now, I also reviewed The Big Parade, which was the highest grossing silent film of all time, and that was told from the Allied perspective of the war, so it's nice to see both perspectives of the same war, though they're both similar, I would say, and I'll get to that later. This movie was released 12 years after the end of World War I, so the war was definitely still on the minds of the general public. It's one of the first films to depict war as horrifying and senseless, and it's the first sound film to use realistic battle sequences, moving camera shots, and naturalistic acting. This movie was banned in Nazi Germany, Italy, and Austria, and sparked protest in some other countries because of its anti-war messaging. I would say that if your film is banned in Nazi Germany, it is probably a very good film, and this one is fantastic. This is so far the best early talkie I've seen. It is one of the best epics I've ever seen. It is tragic, it is horrifying, it is absolutely astounding. And from the middle of the movie to the end of the movie, we get a lead character named Paul, who is played by Lou Ayres, I believe is how you pronounce his name, and he is mesmerizing. He is so emotional. He has so much anxiety, dread, panic, and terror throughout this movie, towards the end of the movie, and he does it all so well. You're just glued to the screen the whole time as you watch this movie. One interesting note about All Quiet on the Western Front is that originally it had no music, and that was by design because the director didn't want to take away from what was going on screen, and I think that's an absolutely fantastic idea. The only time I've ever seen that, I think, in another movie since was No Country for Old Men, and it also worked in that movie as well, so maybe people should start doing that more often. Now, in the beginning of this movie, we have these young kids. They're just out of school, and their teacher is telling them that they need to go to war, they need to represent their country, they need to be proud servicemen. War is fantastic. You get to go there, you get to defeat the other side, you get to have all this pride. It's the greatest thing ever. Everyone should want to go to war, except for the teacher, of course. He doesn't want to go to war because he's a teacher and he doesn't want to die. But everyone else should go to war except for him, and everyone should go and fight and represent their country. And these kids who are definitely impressionable, they listen. I mean, when you were in high school, if you weren't the kind of person who was goofing around all the time, you were also probably impressionable. You listened to your teacher. You thought your teacher was intelligent, that they knew everything. And this is kind of the same way, where they think that their teacher knows what he's talking about. They're full of pride, they're full of pep, they're full of vinegar, they're ready to go seize the day, they're ready to go fight for their country, they're ready to go to war, and they're all excited and happy about it. And then once they actually get to war, to like the boot camp, they are met with I think he is the mailman of the town, but he's also like their head sergeant, and they learn right away that this isn't going to be a walk in the park, that this isn't going to be as easy as they think it's going to be. And as the movie goes along, a lot of them get injured, or a lot of them get killed. They get injured and they get sent home, or they get killed. And they're very tragic scenes. One of the most heartbreaking and tragic scenes in this movie is Paul sees one of his friends die in battle, and he goes back to his other friends who are in the same troop as him, or whatever you would call it, and one of them says, like, oh, now that our friend is dead, I can take his boots. These are very nice boots. Like, if I could have these boots, I'll be willing to fight again. Like, this is all that I need to give me the energy to go in there and keep fighting. And Paul just, like, collapses, and he breaks down, and he says, I saw him die. Like, he died right in front of me, and all I could do was run. I ran away from it because, like, you could tell he's just terrified by what he saw, the horrors, the atrocities that he's seen in war. Innocent people dying, fighting. These are people who are just like him. They're just fighting for the other side. They really, I mean, I don't even think in this movie, it's never really said what they're fighting for. They're just fighting because they're fighting for their country. They don't know what the reason is. It seems like, from what I saw, maybe I'm wrong, because like I watched these movies in segments, so it's possible that I missed part of this, or I just glossed over it or something, but it doesn't seem like they ever know exactly what they're fighting for. And I would say also in the big parade, when I said they're similar, in that in the big parade, I had to go back and see like what side was even being represented in that movie. And like the same for this movie. Well, this movie is famous because they're Germans, but they're played by Americans with American accents. But it doesn't really matter which side you're fighting for in either of these movies. It seems like they're just regular people, impressionable kids who are like 18 years old, who are being told that this is great and this is the best thing ever. Your country will love you for this. You'll come home and everyone will think that you're heroes. You'll have this like big parade for you and everyone will idolize you and you'll be the greatest thing ever. And then when they get to war, they realize that there's a very, very, very good chance that they're going to die or be maimed or not come back at all. And somewhat that they made a mistake, that they're there for the wrong reasons, that they don't really want to fight in this war, they don't know what they're fighting for, that they're just, every day is a struggle for life to live. It's also a commentary, there's a part in the movie where the bigwigs in the war, Paul ends up going back to town and he sees the people who are strategizing to continue the war. Now everyone who's fighting in the war thinks that it's going to stop, but these people are strategizing of where to attack next. And one of the guys is like, oh, the food you have there is fantastic. We take care of our soldiers. The food here is terrible, but the food you have there is great. Like, we take care of our people. Now, realistically, throughout the entire movie, these soldiers are starving. They're eating sawdust off the floor because they have nothing to eat. They're killing mice. They're like just picking up breadcrumbs wherever they can because there's nothing for them to eat. They have no rations. They have nothing. They've been forgotten about on the battlefield. But the bigwigs up front say, oh no, we treat you so good. Like, you never had it so good. Thank God you joined the army or whatever when you did, because everyone in the mainland is suffering, which is the exact opposite. It's just this big propaganda piece where they're gaslighting people. Anyway, these soldiers have nothing to eat. They're suffering. Every day is a struggle for them. And then they have to go out to the battlefield with empty stomachs, tired, distressed, no hope for the future, watching the people around them die, watching these other kids that they grew up with in school who had these pie-in-the-sky dreams of what they were going to become in the army and what the war was going to be, all dying around them and suffering. And it's incredibly sad and depressing, and it's just such a powerful, powerful movie. There's also a scene that really struck me in this movie. I think it's one of the most powerful scenes in the movie. I think it really gets to a lot of people. It wasn't just me, but Paul shoots a French soldier, and he ends up like stabbing him in this it's like this little ditch thing that they're in, and the French soldier is slowly dying, and Paul can't leave because there's fighting all around him, so he has to stay in this ditch while this French soldier dies. And he starts feeling really bad, and he says, like, I didn't mean to kill you. It's the only thing I could have done. You would have killed me. He apologizes to the soldier. He even like takes his wallet and all of his information and says, I'm going to write your family. I'm going to send your family money. They will never want for anything. I'm so sorry for what I did to you. This isn't the person that I am. This isn't the person that I want to be. This is the person that I have to be because I have to survive. And it's so touching. It's so gripping. His acting performances is absolutely amazing in this movie. He just really does such a great job. And it's, like I said in the beginning, it's amazing because this is when actors are really trying to figure out how to come out of silent films and into talkie movies and how to hone their craft. They don't have 70 years of acting behind them like they do now, where they can look at the greats and try to mimic those people. Like, this is raw, this is original, this is the first time this has like been done on film, and it's absolutely amazing. The war scenes are epic. They're just so fantastic. They're so big. There's bombs and explosions going off everywhere. There's soldiers who, at the beginning of the movie, were tough. the guy who played the mailman, who's like the sergeant, he's tough as nails at the beginning of the movie, and then towards the end he's actually like fearful for losing his life, and he wants to just stay in a ditch and not be recognized by anyone, but the soldiers make him keep going, and he's also fearful for his life. It's like what war can do to you when you're actually in it. It's easy to be at home and talk about soldiers and complain about them and stuff, but when you're actually in it and you're actually fighting for your life, especially with this kind of war, this kind of warfare is crazy. You have like one side marching towards the other, just being shot at like as they're marching down this line. It was the same in the big parade where they just form a line and they all start walking towards the other side while the other side's in these like these ditches shooting at them, and eventually like the first row of people die, the second row of people die, and your hope is that you just have enough to get to the ditch so you can start killing people in the ditch. I don't know how anyone survived in this wars. It's absolutely crazy. Like, you were lucky if you're not in the front, I guess, is how you survived. But it's just so it's so heartbreaking. And even so, the end of the movie, we have Paul. He's basically either lost all of his friends or they have gotten injured and they've gone home, and he's by himself. There's another higher up in the military as well who's been there forever, and he's kind of all Paul has left. And they both I don't want to give away too much of the end, but it is the last scene of this movie is just so tragic and so gut-wrenching. It is a gut punch at the end of the movie. But I thought this movie was fantastic. The cinematography is amazing. The acting from Lou Ayres is also fantastic. The side characters is good as well. Actually, it was weird because as I was listening to Lou Ayres in this movie, I thought that he sounds a lot like the guy who plays Scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz, but he's not. I mean, I looked it up and it's not the same guy, but the whole time I had the Scarecrow in my head for some reason. But it's such a great cinematography, great acting all around. There's no love story in this movie, which I also absolutely loved because even though it ended up being good in the big parade, sometimes love stories and these things really get in the way of what they're trying to say about war and what they're trying to say about the effects of war on the psyche and the mentality and the body. And I'm glad they didn't put any of that in there. I'm glad they just focused on what they wanted to focus on. There is a scene later in the movie where they kind of have a time out, like Paul and two of his buddies go out with the three of these French girls that they're not supposed to be going out with because they're like across the line, but they end up doing it anyway. But it doesn't turn into a big love story, thank God. It's just like a one-night stand type thing. But this movie is so powerful. It's so gut-wrenching. It is so I would say it's violent, but not too violent. It's gory, but not too gory. It definitely probably pushed the envelope for 1930. I'm sure it did. Also, this movie was made for a little over $1 million, and it was like right during the Great Depression, which was a ton of money to invest into a movie back then. So they really took a big risk with this, and I'm glad they did because it is absolutely phenomenal. One of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life. That acting performance, that cinematography, just the atmosphere that the movie is building, phenomenal. It is a 10 out of 10. Thank you. I hope you have a great day.